So I've made a copy of RosterTab, which means that I can go into the Tools menu, Tools, Script Editor, and I can steal the code. So that's what we want to do today, is look at the code from RosterTab and repurpose it. So you'll notice what you're looking for is functions, and the functions have a starting and an ending curly brace, so you want to make sure you get the whole function. So we're going to grab the onOpen function. I'm going to make a new spreadsheet. Just going to name this. So you can make some sort of an activity for students would be the idea, right? My activity. And I'm going to go into the Tools menu for this spreadsheet. So there's this default function there. I usually like to delete it. Control-A, select all, delete, and then I'm just going to paste the code that I stole. And I'm going to save it, and we're going to call this project Make Copies. So the activity that we're going to do is create a menu that'll make copies of our document. So we can make it easier to say, oh, I teach 6 periods of Algebra 1. How can I make 6 copies really quick and easy? So that's the goal. So when I go through and just read it line by line, onOpen. So that just means that this function is actually going to run when you open the document. So you won't have to do anything, just open the document and it's going to do these lines of code. And then the next line, line 2, we always ask, what app are we using? And in this case, we're using Spreadsheet app. So I always like, okay, Spreadsheet app, and what do I want to do? And in this case, I want to get the user interface. So UI is a common shortener for user interface, and then we like to always give it a variable that's meaningful. So if I'm getting the UI, then let's use UI for the variable, and the end of that line of code is a semicolon. So then the next line of code I see right here is where it uses the variable UI, and then I type a period, and the option was to create a menu. Now, of course, I'm not actually typing a period. I've copy and pasted this code and I'm stealing it. So I'm just analyzing, not memorizing. I'm not building code and editing it. So I'm going to create a menu, and inside the parentheses is the name of the menu. So I'm going to call it Make Copies so that my menu says Make Copies at the top in the spreadsheet. You'll notice when I switch over to the spreadsheet, next to the Help menu, there is no menu called Make Copies, and I'm going to change that. Okay, and then normally I would put a period here to get my menu, and you'll see when I put a period here to get my menu, it gives me the option to add item. But you can optionally build it instead of horizontally, build it vertically. So notice that the period is down here on row 5, and I copied and pasted this code off of the internet, so whoever else posted this online thought that that was a good idea, and so I just keep doing it because someone else did it. So I'm going to create a menu. I'm going to call it Make Copies, and then I'm going to add an item to that menu, and then what does the menu say? I'm going to say, like, go ahead and make some copies. So this is what's going to be in the menu itself, and you can put whatever you want here. This is actually excessively long. And what goes in the next set, this is actually the name of your function. So you'll notice that I have a comment, and the comment's just giving me a hint like, hey, the first thing is a caption, and the second thing is the function that it's calling up. So we're going to make a function called Make Copies. Notice no space, and the C is capitalized. It's not like you have to do it that way. No space, you can't have spaces. You don't have to do it with this smashing of the words in a capital letter, but let's just do that. So I'm just editing. The item that I'm adding is what does the menu say, and then which function is it going to run, because you can make a whole bunch of functions. And then line 6 here is running another function. So it's going to add to the menu, whatever the heck this is, and it's going to run this function. Well, I don't have two functions that I want to run, so I'm going to delete that item. I don't need to add a second item. One's good. Then line 7 says dot add separator. Now notice I don't have any semicolons in here. This is actually all the same line of code, just broken up vertically, which, okay, you can do it that way. It's kind of nice to be able to read. I'm going to create a menu. I'm going to add an item. I'm going to add a separator so I can see the wisdom in breaking up each method on its own line. There's nothing to edit here. You'll notice you can't edit the method. Like, that's the code. You can't, that's the code. So no editing there. And there's nothing in the parentheses to modify. So leave that alone. And it's just going to make a line in your menu. And then it says to add another item. And the menu's going to say about. And the function is going to be the about file. I don't have that function. I actually copied and pasted this off the internet, so at first I just I don't even know what this is, and I just let it sit in there. Then later I went and looked it up, and I was able to find some code to do that with. So if I go back to RosterTab, so I went in, remember I went into the script editor for RosterTab. Here's all the code for RosterTab. Here's the function list of tabs. I'm not using that. I'm looking for here we go. The function is about file. So I start with function. I get the curly brace, I copy it all the way down to the bottom curly brace, so I capture the entire function, copy it, and then I come back here into my code, the make copies code, and I'm just going to paste it. So now I have two functions. I have an onOpen function, and I have an about file function. So notice your function is about file with a capital F, and then up here I have add an item where the function is about file with a capital F. So these match. So in the menu, the item about will run this function. And I don't know why I did UI2. You can use whatever variables you want. So get the user interface. And then what we're going to do here is do an alert, which just means a pop-up box. You don't need to learn any of this. We're just copy and pasting. So here where it says RosterTab, place a list of blah, blah, blah. This is telling you about RosterTab. Well, I'm not trying to do RosterTab, so let's delete that. I'm going to... So I want my pop-up box to say, you will use this menu to create copies of this document. So it's just about what my code is going to do. That's all that does. But notice that it ends in a quotation and it ends in a semicolon. And I deleted it accidentally. I need to have an ending curly brace to match the starting curly brace. So these are my two functions for this. I'm going to save it and run it. Now notice here it's onOpen or about file. You got to say which function you're going to run. I'm going to run the onOpen function. I'm going to give it permission. Okay, let's go look at the spreadsheet. This is my new spreadsheet, not RosterTab. It's my activity. And you'll notice to the right of the help menu, it now says make copies. It didn't used to say that. I coded that. And when I click on make copies, it has the menu go ahead and make some copies, and it has the menu option of about. If I click about, it gives me that pop-up box with the about help tip. Okay. If I say go ahead and make some copies, nothing's going to happen because it gives me an error because I don't have a make copies function. So let's dismiss that. I'm going to go back into the script editor. I'm going to add that function. What was the function? This menu item. Go ahead and make some copies. Pulls up the function. It runs the function make copies. So I'm going to make that function. Function make copies, open parenthesis, end parenthesis, curly brace, enter, 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 end curly brace, and save. Okay, so my function doesn't do anything. I already saved it. So if I go back here, if I say make copies, go ahead and make some copies, it says, oh, it finished doing that. See, I didn't get an error, but the code literally has nothing in it. It's going to run the make copies code function. Awesome. Well, the make copies function does nothing. So that's what I expected. We're going to put code in here later on a different assignment, but now I've just got it set up where I have a menu, and that feels cool. And how did I make the menu? I copy and pasted it and just edited it up just a little bit.